Hello, hello, Ty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that is watching this channel. I have a visitor here, longtime partner and friend. He is my senior manager. This is Ty Scott. Ty, welcome to the Christine Austinil Life Now channel.
Good
And
morning. Good
today,
morning.
today we're on this whole theme of cards, right? Have you ever heard the saying that you have to play the hand that you have been dealt? And what does that mean to you? And how have you taken the hand that you may have been dealt, so to speak, in life and turned that around with this opportunity?
Interesting. Great question. Um, considering how I grew up, rather challenged. Father left my mom when I was about 6 months or so. At least that's what my mom told me. And growing up in challenging communities in the inner city of Pittsburgh, um, definitely the hand I was dealt was not a really lovely hand. Such is life. As far as life has its way of just throwing curveballs at us here and there, and out of nowhere we have to call audibles. But as far as the hand I was dealt in the very beginning, I realized at a young age that if I wanted to, I liked things that as a child. There was a lot of things that I seen my friends had and that we did not have. Some of my friends had homes where they had a father, and some of my friends had nicer things in their homes, and they had nicer bicycles or nicer shoes or sneakers and things like that. And I didn't have those nice things that they had, but I did like those things. And at a young age, I realized that if I wanted to have some of those nicer things that I was attracted to, some of those material blessings or gifts or things that any boy would like, I had to go out and get some of those things myself. So at a really early age, I think as early as 10 and 11, I was already doing small jobs around the community in my neighborhood. I think at 12 years old, I had a newspaper route. 13 years old through 17, I had summer jobs. I always worked. I always hustled. I had lemonade stands, newspaper routes. I used to go to store for people when I used to live on this really high mountain on this hill, and a lot of my neighbors were older in the stores at the bottom of the hill. And I used to knock doors as a kid, asking my neighbors, hey, good morning, Miss blah blah blah. Did you need anything from the store? So I would make my rounds, and I go to the store for all these people, and I would get $1 almost a trip to run down the hill and back up with their bread or whatever they wanted from the store. And and then I just transitioned to when I was able to start buying my own things. It took a lot of pressure off my mom, and I was able to have things that I really liked. So, regardless of the hand that I was dealt, I realized at a very young age that you still have to play that hand. You can't give up, and you definitely don't want to go the route of a lot of the people who might be in your environment. um, Unfortunately, the drugs and things like that, and a lot of the other things that go along with growing up in a challenging community. Just very fortunate that I had a great mom. We didn't have the finances, but I had a very loving mom, and the hand I was dealt was a loving hand, but it wasn't a financially um, fully dependent hand. So I realized at a young age, even though I didn't like that hand I had to play my cards, and eventually you get that hand, and you might start off with it. If you're familiar with cards, for those who are familiar with cards, you get a hand and you might not like the hand, but as you start to play your hand and use your brain, before you know it, you might have a good hand halfway through you're playing this game with your friends, and their hand might have started out great and their hand might not be as good. And so when you play your hand and you use that godly given wisdom and talent, and you think your way through things, that hand you were dealt or given, upon, at your early ages or whatever age you are, you can play that hand and play it well. I also believe that when you play a hand, sometimes those bad hands are like speed bumps, or in your during your on your journey, and that hand was a test by your creator that wants to see how bad you really want an opportunity. And in those moments of triumph, as you get over that hurdle playing that bad hand, you can't give up. We all have to play the hand that we're dealt, such as life. um, but as you hurdle that speed bump, as you journey down that road and you overcome some of those challenges, you become more and more courageous and stronger, that you realize that irregardless of the hand that I was dealt, I can build something amazing from this moment. Even if I lose everything right now, I play that new hand and I can rebuild one step at a time with God and friends and family. And the roadblocks are just nothing but stepping stones to get you where your creator, in my opinion, ultimately wants you to be.
Man, I love that. Wow. Okay. So you guys that are watching, you know, every time we have a powerhouse on this channel, they have a different spin on this topic, a completely different spin. Man, okay. I learned some things today, right? I thought I knew everything about some Thai stock, but I didn't. So that's very powerful. The fact that even at a young age, you were running up and down the hill taking groceries to individuals who couldn't make it up and down the hill. Like that speaks volume to just your character, even as a young person. Loving people, even though you were thinking about the money, probably how much you could make, you provided a service to people. You did the work up and down the hill. Like I'm very a visual type of individual. So when I hear somebody speaking, I'm visualizing somebody going, knocking on doors, asking if somebody needs some help, then taking their money, trusting they gave you money to go down the store, right? To then carry whatever it is that they asked for back up to get $1 or more, right? That's a lot of work if you really think about it to make a handful of money. Figure
Yeah,
$10. That's
yeah,
10.
that dollar was massive. When I was 12 and
Yeah.
13 years old, a dollar
Yeah.
went a long way.
Right. I'm sure. I'm sure. But like as somebody that we are now older and thinking about that, right? It's like, wow, to have that mind space to say, you know what, I want these things and mom can't do it. You know, she's doing the best that she can. I can do some things and I'm going to figure some things out. Because who gave you the idea to knock on somebody's door to go to the store for them?
The hand I was dealt, the question you asked in the beginning, the hand I was dealt opened up the thoughts
Yeah.
to be creative.
Mhm.
We might not like the hand that we're dealt in life. We still have to play that hand one card at a time, one moment at a time, and just don't give up. Never give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And so moving forward, you know, that's childhood. Now we become an adult, went through school, got married, had children, and you're coming from what type of a background? Of course, I know, but I want you talking. They hear me all the time. Your background right before coming into the insurance industry was what, and how did you transition? Like, how was that for you coming from your career where you were, because you were successful where you were, into this type of business? Tell us a little bit about that.
Most of my experience comes from the hospitality background. I have a degree in the hospitality industry, and that degree had me travel to as far west as Chicago, as far as east as Philadelphia, and a lot of restaurants throughout the Pennsylvania market, if you will, Pittsburgh and State College, if you will, PA. But right before I became an agent with Lincoln Heritage, I had a health setback, and then I had left the hospitality industry completely, and I took a job with Coca-Cola, and that job gave me some marital stability. It was my first position of employment after defeating a long health battle, and I was making a whopping $33,000 a year, and with a family of six, me, a wife, and four kids, that did not that was very difficult to say the least to pay my mortgage and a couple car bills and whatnot and feed my family. Um, but as fate would see it, as I knew I could do better for myself. I I was always a very, very hard worker, and I'm extremely organized, hardworking, well loved everywhere I went. Has met so many wonderful people along my journey of hospitality. But the job with Coca-Cola, even though it gave me some stability at home, it was my first position of employment since the health scare. It was where I wanted to be at that moment. I just knew I was worn out of restaurants. I knew I was not going back to that. So I had an opportunity to become a police officer in the Pittsburgh market. Is either going to become a police officer, go back to restaurants is my, no matter, not my absolute last resort, because I knew I can make double what I was making in Coca-Cola, but I didn't want to do that. That was my last resort, but I had to feed my family. That was going to happen. But the police officer job was extremely enticing. But after a long interview and a year-long process of physical drills and whatnot, at the last minute, the midnight hour, I was about to cross the finish line, I completely removed my name from the list.
Wow.
The very next day, I went to work at Coca-Cola. I didn't tell my wife at the time that I had pulled my name from the list. I just did it on my own, didn't discuss it. And as I was on my way home, the detective had called me, the one who interviewed me, and he said, I'm going to give you some time to think this over the weekend. And he said, and then on Monday, give me a call and see if you still like to pull your name from the list. I said, I appreciate that. I really do. But I really made up my mind. I don't have to think about it over the weekend. I was that sure for some odd reason. I don't know what had come over me. I just knew out of nowhere I did not want to be a police officer.
Wow.
Even though I had no other career moves pending, I just knew at that moment I did not want to do that. So I went home. I shared it with my wife. She was irate about it. Obviously, I didn't discuss it with her previously, and I was really upset at myself. She was upset with me. We weren't speaking the rest of the evening. I had this great job on horizon, just completely walked away from after a year-long process. I go to work at Coca-Cola the next day. I remember it clearly. It was a Saturday morning, and I'm a man of God. I believe highly in my God. For I am nothing without my God. I really believe that. I would not be where I'm at without God. And so I was praying as I was stocking 2 liters at work. I'm putting these 2 liters on the shelf, and I had tears in my eyes as I'm doing my job. Because with Coca-Cola, when you're a merchandiser, you don't have to interact with people too often. You're pretty much self-reliant. You have a job to do, you do it. You go from one location to another. You don't have the whole lot of people you have to report to. And I'm tearing up as I'm doing this job because I'm praying. I'm talking to God. God, did I make a mistake? Did I make an error? Should I pull my name from that list? Should I have let you decide whether that was my fate or not, instead of me pulling my name from that list myself? And I remember saying in so many words, of course, I'm paraphrasing, God, if this was something that you wanted, can you please send me some sort of a sign that will let me know that I did not make a mistake. God, I don't know if I made a mistake, but I really need you right now. I'm wet. My eyes is wet, and customers are looking at me in a supermarket.
Like he's going through it.
I work for Coca-Cola, but I'm doing my job. When people want a 2 liter, I'm just throwing it to them. They want a 12-pack, I'm throwing it to them. Meanwhile, I'm just wiping my face, but I keep doing my job, and I'm just praying and praying. And 15, 20 minutes later, I'm in a different part of the supermarket. This is a true story, guys. I'm in a different part of the supermarket, and vitamin water used to be a product of Coca-Cola, and I'm doing a vitamin water shelf in the supermarket. And I seen an old friend I haven't seen in, 10, 12, 15 years. I don't know how long it was at that point, maybe longer. A friend of mine named Troy Miles. And Troy Miles and I, we went to high school together. And we haven't seen each other since our young adult years. After high school, we've seen each other once or twice, but I haven't seen this man in probably at this point, 15, 16 years when I think about it. And when I bumped into him, I was like, hey, Troy, man, how you doing? I was really excited to see, because I haven't seen him in a long time. He looked great. His face was all lit up, and he was happy to see me as I was happy to see him. We gave each other big old hugs, of course, non-COVID days, and it was so great to see him. We were sharing how things have been. He was married, I'm married, got kids, and the other, and we exchanged information. And he told me that he's in this insurance field, and he gave me his card. And even when I looked at the card, I didn't want to sell insurance, but I said, hey, man, me and my wife would love to break bread with you and your wife. So maybe we can do a couple things together. Let's go to movies. And so we started doing some things together. And as fate would see it, I still wasn't interested in insurance, though. And he never pushed me on it ever again. I seen his house. I seen how he was living. I could tell he had a couple of dollars, but I just didn't think insurance sales was for me. But I think what I liked about it the most, he didn't pressure me. He didn't keep bringing it up every 5, 10 minutes, every time we would meet. He just let it be what it was. And we just kept hanging out and doing some things. His wife and us as a couple, we were doing some things together, hanging out, having a good time. And maybe off and on, I was kind of watching him out the corner of my eye, kind of watching what he was up to, how things were going. And after a while, by and by, he ended up inviting me and my wife over for a fish fry to head over his home.
Mm.
And he knew I was casually interested, but this fish fry, I'm thinking that he thought I was going to put me over the hurdle that I would now come into this opportunity. Well, as we went to this fish fry and they were telling stories, we eating and sipping wine and hearing stories. I met Troy's regional director at the time, and he was sharing his stories of how he got to where he was, and Mr. Troy was sharing his stories about where his background was coming from. And I met a few other people like myself who were not yet in the field, in the insurance field, but they were considering it. So we had a few other people in his home that was talking about this. And me and my wife, at the time, I thought very cynically, very cynical. So I'm kind of sitting back, watching everyone from a distance, wondering if this opportunity was for me or not. I just didn't think it was for me or not. So me and my wife, we left that opportunity, and I left it right there. And as time would go on, maybe a year after he first told me about the opportunity, I worked a bunch of overtime in November of 2009 with Coca-Cola. I promised my children the best Christmas they've had in years because I was sick for the previous couple of years and I couldn't provide for my family the way I wanted to for Christmas for the previous couple. But this Christmas, Daddy got his health back. He's strong. I'm gonna work a bunch of overtime and provide some wonderful opportunity for my kids for Christmas. Well, when I got my paycheck after working, I want to say about 80 hours in a 2 week in a 2 week window, whatever. It was a lot of hours of work for Coca-Cola, a lot of overtime. And what I didn't know at the time, they tax your overtime differently than they do your standard pay. I did not know that. And so when I got my check, I thought, I assumed it was gonna be like $2,500, and it was like a whopping $1,700. And that was with a whole, and I wasn't seeing my kids or my family at all to make this extra $400 or $500. And I remember when I seen my check and opened it, I looked at it. I just buried my face in my hands, and I just started sobbing, and tears was leaking through my fingers. And I was sitting in the bedroom, and my wife had opened the door, and she seen my face in my hands, and she seen the tears leaking through my fingers and down my wrist. And she said, "What's wrong? What's wrong, baby? What's wrong?" And I told her, let me just have the room to myself. Can you can you just close the door behind you? I got to process some things. So at that moment, if she gave me my wish, she left the room, I just started praying. And I said, God, I cannot continue to feed my family on this. I missed my family the previous few weeks, and I got this whopping $1,700+ check. I promised my children a really nice Christmas. I can barely pay my bills, but let alone with this check, let alone some extra money left over for some Christmas presents. So at that moment, I had a decision I had to make. I was up against the wall. I'm either going to become this police officer. I'm either going to go back to restaurant management, or I picked up this card and I said, or I'm going to sell, I'm gonna get into life insurance. I'm gonna find out a little bit more about this life insurance sales opportunity. Mm-hmm. I knew the first two, so I started doing my research on the company. Unbeknownst to Troy at the time, he didn't give up on me, but I wasn't on his immediate radar anymore because he told me about it a year earlier. I started Googling the company, the AM Best rating, the Better Business Bureau rating. Then I called the Lincoln Heritage home office number, and I asked them for 3 of the top agents in the nation. They gave me an agent out of California, their number, name and number. They gave me an agent out of Texas, their name and number, and they gave me an agent out of Florida, their name and number. And I called all 3 agents and left a voicemail and or a text. And all 3 of them I talked to at different times with later in that week. What's great about making these calls to these gentlemen was none of them had anything to gain from telling me all about this opportunity, what it was doing for them, how long they were there, blah, blah, blah. And they were telling me, and they were basically saying, what are you waiting for, brother? What are you waiting for? Everyone I spoke to didn't meet, who never even talked to me, didn't meet me, didn't know me from a can of latex paint, as they say. They were just saying, what are you waiting for? And I was asked tough questions, open-ended questions. If you had a chance to do it all over again, would you do it again? If you had a chance to do anything differently, would you do anything differently? And I was asking all the tough, I interviewed people for almost 20 years, so I knew the questions to ask, and they were all coming back with these amazing answers. So I was like, okay. So then I contacted one of the local agents who I knew was aboard with Troy Miles.
Okay.
His name was Brian. Brian and Terrell. And I was talking to both these gentlemen to ask them if this opportunity was everything that Troy said it was at that fish fry not long before. And they said, Ty, why didn't you come in? Why didn't you come in? Why didn't you come in? Long story short, after all that, I decided to get my insurance license. My plan was only to come in part-time. I'm gonna get my license to see if everything everyone's been saying is what, if it's gonna happen for me like it happened for them. Well, I got my license, and common sense said to me, well, if you're going to get licensed, you might as well write a few people in your family who probably need coverage. So if they do happen to pass away, not only myself and my family, but my aunts, my uncles, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, all my dad, all them people in my family, my neighbors, my church brethren, just start calling a few people that I love to make sure if they pass away, we're not stuck up the creek without the paddles. And I want to make sure it was going to pay out the way they said it's going to pay out. So I wrote 3 deals. I was not licensed. I had no confidence in my abilities. I never sold anything in my life. Was never in sales, ever. I wrote my Aunt Melanie, my dad, and his wife, my stepmom. Made about $800. $800 for about 2 hours of work. It's
Right.
About $400 an hour. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of, especially when you're making 33,000 whopping dollars a year. So I said, okay, turn my computer on, see my online banking, and money went to my account. I showed my wife, I said, baby, look at the computer. She said, oh my God, where'd that come from? I said, that's from writing Dad, Miss Gloria, and Aunt Melanie. She said, oh my. She's like, I said, wow, that's a lot of money, right? She said, yeah. I didn't jump for joy yet. I continued to call some people on my phone and wrote a few more deals, and I kept my job with Coca-Cola. I'm still not a believer yet, but I kept both jobs. Well, within 2 weeks, because of the way I was organized and how I was attacking my new business with a reckless abandon, I seen the income, and it immediately made me a believer. It was one thing all the people were saying. It was another thing to see this in my account. It all became so real. Right away, even when I'm at my job with Coca-Cola, I was making calls in between my stops. I was setting up appointments so when I got off work, I could see people right away. Within 2 weeks, I gave my notice to Coca-Cola, and I was full-time insurance with Lincoln Heritage. And that month, I was still part-time, made approximately about 6,500 to 7,500 my first full month in the business,
Wow.
without really knowing what I was doing. And that's when I knew I was on to something great. And at the end of that partial first year, I ended up making $81,000 on my 1099. I never made more than 64 as a chef.
Wow. Wow. And how many months was that first year? Would
The
you
first
say?
year I was about 8.5, almost 9
Wow.
months. About
Yeah. So you definitely
$9,000
would
a
have
month.
crossed that. If you had a full year, you would have been way over the 100,000 your first year
Absolutely.
and not even knowing what you were doing. That's so fire. Like when I think about all the things that we have today, all of the training that we provide to individuals coming into this opportunity today, and for you to be able to do that, that's 12 years back, right?
11.
11 years. 11 years back. That was when it was brand new in the PA area. The
That's
Miles Group was a
correct.
new agency. It was like one year in, 2 years in, maybe. Yeah.
I came in, right. Yeah. Mr. Miles Troy got here in 2009.
Yeah.
Him and a few others came in, and I came in March of 2010. March,
Right.
April
So
2010.
ground level, no paying the same day, paid in 3-4 days. Like, dude, that I know when you got that first deposit, I would not have believed it either initially, because it's like, okay, so when is it going to stop? When are they going to take it back? Right? It's that you don't trust it because you never knew that was even possible to make that much money and helping somebody.
Funny you
You know
say
what I
that.
mean?
It's funny you say that, not trusting. I didn't know this opportunity was going to continue to be as great as it was going. So the first thing I started doing, a lot of people make an extra 20 or 30 grand in a 30 or in a 60-day window, 90-day window. You're like, oh my God, your head starts spinning. You might want to go buy some things you've always wanted to buy. But I was like, oh my, God, how would you see us spend this money in a way in which is pleasing to you, my God, my King? And for you know, he said, don't serve the lender, don't serve the lender, don't serve the lender, don't serve the lender. So all I started doing was paying off all my debt in case this opportunity did not continue to do what it was
Yes.
doing. So my credit score went over 800, volume me knowing what was going on. I paid off my student loans, my wife's student loans, all my credit card debt. We kept driving the same cars, living the same way. But now we were debt free, except for just home, and it didn't even have that much left to pay that off either. So within the first year of providing final expense life insurance, I paid off all my debt except my home in my first year, and my credit score shot up over 800. I think it was 801 at one point when I was talking to some of my credit people about it. And then it gives you more leverage when you're buying things, houses, cars, things like that. And the very next year, which was 2011, that 81,000, wait for it, the 81,000, which was the first year partial, the first full year was next year in 2011, earned out $197,000.
Y'all hear that? Did y'all wait? If I could rewind it right now, I would rewind it right now, but I'm going to rewind Ty. Okay. So you said you made 86 the first year, 81. And the second year you did what?
197,000.
Okay, so that is $111,000 raise. Wow.
Can I tell y'all why?
Please.
Here's what I did not know. Mr. Miles could have probably recruited me 1 year earlier if he would have explained something. And I hope you guys don't miss this. Life insurance sales, I know at least with Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance Company, builds massively residual income. And so all that $81,000 in that first year, I'm getting paid residual income on that 81,000 from 2010 in 2011. So every single month, I'm getting residuals on all them people who I wrote who have not canceled or passed away. Then I now have a full year to write, and I'm also recruiting. And so at this point, the earnings go from just being about writing someone today. It also gets to the point where you get paid three ways here at Lincoln Heritage Life Insurance Company. You get paid when you write a new client. You get paid when your clients keep their insurance each and every month. You get paid residuals on whatever side premium they're sending into the company every month. And you get paid a third way, you start building yourself a team. And the residuals came from all them people who I wrote in the first year, and then continue to go up each year. The stick and stay, the longer you're here, the greater your residuals continue to grow to the point where it's almost embarrassing to say where it is now. But I remember during the first year, I wake up in the middle of the night, jump up, with my wife still laying in bed. I look up and I wonder if I was just dreaming all that. What happened the last several months of not here. And I look at the TV on the dresser or whatever on the wall. Okay, it's still a new flat screen TV. I look at the new carpet. Okay, the carpet is still new. I look out the window. I still see new stuff outside, whatever case might be. And I knew that it was real, that I didn't just dream it all. And I remember a story my daughter said she said during the first year, she said, my daughter Naya, she might have been like 15 or 16. She said, Daddy, what's going on around here? I said, what are you talking about? She said, Daddy, every time I come home, we have new stuff around the house. What are we like now? Are we rich now, Daddy, or something? Are you rich? Are we rich, Daddy? What's going on? What do you do now, Daddy? How come we have all this stuff now? And I said, oh my God, honey. I said, no, Daddy, Mommy and Daddy are not rich, but God has provided for us in ways that we've only dreamed about. And I started sharing it with her, but it was a great story.
Isn't that beautiful? And I can tell how it just makes your skin is just like, yes, that's the proudest moment, right? To be able to change that while your children are still there. I think that's so important to allow them to be able to see the transition of, if you just stick and stay and work hard and praying, making sure that you are praying and asking God, is this the right thing for you? Is this the right decision? Is this the right move? That it's going to be blessed, right? And then the kids can see it. I have, obviously, I have Anaya too. And my baby, she wasn't running around here talking about mom, you know, this and that and the third. She was telling her friends we were rich, and I had to break her in. Excuse me, you are going to get us somebody's going to rob us. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful.
Mm.
And you know, so it's amazing. It's beautiful to know that during their time, you know, you were able to show them a different way. You know what I mean? You were able to actually change how you were raised, and just making it from paycheck to Wednesday, right? Mom struggling. And now you were struggling as well, even though you had amazing jobs. It still was a matter of struggling when you have a household with children. It wasn't the multitudes, the extra. It was, I have to do this overtime, and I'm taking away all this time from my family to be exhausted when I finally get home to get a paycheck that was what, $1,700. And trust me, been there, done that. And I was excited to get a $1,700, you know, pay after 2 weeks, not thinking about all that I was missing. You
Mm.
know, I missed my daughter, my 24-year-old's whole pretty much school upbringing, if you will. She was raised by the school and the daycares and my aunt, because I was at work all the time. I was a manager. But now with Naya, it's like I'm right here. With Rakari, I'm like right here. And sometimes I'm like, I missed all of this.
Mm.
You know, with my daughter, I'm like, no wonder, you know, she's like over there because somebody else raised her. Now we have more of a fingerprint on our kids, and they're still going to make their own decisions. Trust me, they will. But it's a better feeling as a parent to know that, okay, you can make different choices, right? It's not just what people are saying that you have to be because this is where you come from, right? Change that whole narrative. Man, I love that. I love it. You've hit so many of the questions that I have on there with just your conversation. Um, one of my questions was, you know, was it really a challenge for you? But clearly that wasn't a challenge for you because you got in here, you were part-time, but very quickly, 2 weeks, I think you said 2 weeks, you were able to see the income because you jumped out and thought about the people within your family and the friends that if in fact they were to pass away, would they be covered? So you digged right in, not thinking about the outside, but the inside folk first, and seeing the results of that. And that is amazing. You know, it's like, yeah, that kind of goes back to when you were a kid and you thought about, I'm going to knock on these neighbors' door and see who needs some groceries so I can go down the street and help them. And by helping them, you helped yourself.
Mm.
There was no difference with this too, right?
Right. That is
Um, man, that's crazy. Clearly, you talked about how this has changed your life, right? I mean, you completely changed your whole zip code, right? You
quite a few
completely changed your
times.
whole zip code a few times, continuing to grow up. And I said, grow up, because throughout that process, you were still learning and you were still growing. And going into management, you touched on that just a little bit as far as the different ways that we get paid. How was that transition from being a master in the field, talking to people, your warm market, your 3 foot rule, which is just talking to everybody around you? You know, we here at the agency, we've had the opportunity to be blessed with your story and how you have worked this business, not needing the leads, because I don't think there was really that many leads in the beginning. You were generating your own clientele, not just from family and friends, but everywhere that you went. Can you touch on that a little bit for us?
Hmm.
And then I'm sorry, and then the transition from being that master writer to now having to slow down to train and hire.
When I first got here, I think one of the reasons why I became moderately successful in the early stages of my career, because I've always been organization is extremely vital, especially getting a brand new business off the ground. And although we had the lead program, we had a lead program, wasn't as strong as it is now, but we had some leads then. We didn't have that many agents. I didn't get any leads yet. I knew that I could attack my family and my friends and my community and my church, but how? So I'm very, or I like to write a lot down. So I took every number in my phone from A to Z. I left a little space beside each name for notes. And I didn't discriminate based on past experiences with these people on my phone. I just called them anyway. They're in my phone, I called them anyway. One thing I realized is that, let's say I'm in my A's in my phone. Let's say it's cousin April. April might connect me with somebody she knows who needs cover. So I didn't discriminate or cut April out because me and April might have problems in the past growing up or whatever case might be. I caught every single name. And so that's how I found my first 13,000 in production, around 6,000 to 7,000 in my account, my very first month in, through the power of my organization and my phone. But after a while, my warm market, 2 or 3 months in, it started drying up and I started getting some leads. I got 20 leads from Lincoln. And what's so crazy is when you don't know what you're doing and you're not overthinking anything, I got 20 leads, guys. I wrote 16 of the 20. And I said, oh, this is crazy. I should have been getting leads, right? So I got another batch of leads. I got 20 more leads. I wrote the normal 6, 7, 8, whatever that was. That's a pretty good average right there. Then I got another 20 leads not long after that. I think I wrote 3. And it doesn't take me long to start calling audibles on things. Okay, Ty. I liked when I wrote 16, obviously, our 80% closing ratio. The 35% ratio, that's not bad. It's more like close to the company average, but that 15% doesn't sit well with me when I'm writing 3 out of 20 or whatever that percentage is. 15%. So I need to call audibles right away. I'm a thinker, and I realized I'm gonna rewind a little bit. My manager, Troy, let me listen to a disc called "The Secrets of a Millionaire's Mind" by T. Harv Eker. That gentleman has changed. He opened up some things inside this head that since I listened to that disc, those 3 discs, I've hungered and thirsted for more authors along that same type of information, inspirational speakers, Dr. Shad Helmstetter, Stephen F. Covey, Norman Vincent Peale, James Allen, Jesse Garcia. These are authors, Dale Carnegie. These are authors who have, Tony Robbins. There's so many authors who changed the thinking process. So going back to now, I'm a little bit better thinker now. I'm going to go back to also, I eliminated a lot of things that used to distract me. Start watching TV. I stopped playing video games. I stopped doing a lot of things and hanging out with people who weren't not in alignment with my vision. And all I did, I attacked this business with a reckless abandon. So with attacking it so aggressively and transitioning, the lead conversion ratio settled down. Says, Ty, you need to figure out a way. I liked making that 7 or 8 grand, but when I made 3 or 4, 3 months later, I'm like, no, you can't. I'm losing my magic. My power is physical. I don't know what's going on. So I said, I liked making. I was getting myself out of debt, but I only made 4 grand or so, give or take, my 3rd or 4th month in. I'm like, no, this can't be the end. I got to keep it going. You got to open up your thoughts. So I completely reinvented myself. I started advertising on my vehicle. I started advertising in my yard, in my father's yard. I had 2 cars. I advertised on both cars, the car and the truck, advertised in my yard, advertised my dad's yard. And this was a little bit different. This was completely different. Let me back up even more. I started asking for referral from everybody I wrote. And I didn't discriminate, once again, whether they were a lead, whether they were young, whether they were old, whether they were black, purple, Asian, white, anything. I was consistently doing the same thing. So my referral game started taking off, but something else really started taking off with the referral game. It was the 3-foot rule conversations. So the 3-foot rule conversations, nothing more than talking to everyone within 3 feet of me. So wherever I'm at, you have to engage. You can't be afraid. And you may get a lot of no's in the beginning, but after a while, when you get that first person you write from a referral, you've stretched yourself to the point where you're never afraid to ask for referrals again. When you have stretched yourself and you've engaged in a 3-foot rule conversation with someone, and you're able to get their name and their number, and you write them and their spouse and their mom and their dad, all because you open up your mouth. A great friend of mine, Mr. Sean Hall, said a long time ago, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. We're in sales. Numbers. I don't care how you get in front of your numbers, but you have to get in front of numbers in order to increase your numbers. So the referrals took off. The 3-foot rules took off. The advertising took off. The group presentations took off. Any thought that God gave me, I wrote it down. And because I'm not distracted by the video games and too much mindless, pointless television, I was all into the business all the time. Did I answer the question? I think I was all over the place.
No, yes, you definitely answered the question and a little bit more, which was Very good. That the latter, the second part of the question was your transition from all of that, and how that you brought in, how you created yourself to be that master producer. But then how was that transition going into now hiring, when people were asking you for this opportunity because they've been seeing and watching you grow and change, and they're like, I want in. How was that for you? And just like that transition, because most of us know, and maybe it was different for you back then. I can't remember all the way back then as far as your part of the story. I know my part of the story, but for you, and then now having team members and wanting, and having them come in and asking you a million questions a day, and you're trying to be out in the field. How was that transition for you? How did you manage that?
Well, believe it or not, um, after managing people for well, almost 19, 20 years, when Troy had asked me, and several of my colleagues who are at my level, Brian, Terrell, Gabe, et cetera, Daryl, all over the years, they were asking me about building. I'm like, I'm not interested in managing. Managing people is one of the toughest things alive. And if I can make six figures, if I can do this kind of coin without managing one person, I am good. But as fate would see it, I was sitting on the porch of one of my friends, Mr. Sean Knox, and my phone rang. And we were sitting there on his porch just talking some stuff and about business ideas, whatever. Mr. Knox, a bright guy. He's one of my favorite guys to talk to. And
Amazing. Yeah.
my phone rang and someone was interested in getting life insurance. And I told him, I said to Sean, I said, can you give me a second? This is a business call. Give me 1 second. So I jumped into my mode, into my role. And 5 minutes later, I hung up the phone. I set the appointment, hung up the phone. Then I was able to come out of role and kick it with my friend again. And he paused and he said, bro, I'm like, yo, what's up? He said, you're going to be really good at this one day. And I looked over him. I said, who said I'm not already good at it right now? That's exactly what I said to him. I'm not asking him. I said, who said I'm not really good? He was sitting right here. And he said, okay. He said, so what's going on? And then he started asking me questions. How come every time I come home from work, I keep seeing all these contractors in front of your house? New windows, new central air, new appliances, new kitchens, new bathrooms, new everything. So every time he come in, he started asking me questions about that. I said, dude, I sell insurance. He said, is that all you do? I said, yeah, that's all I do. I provide life insurance. And he said, that's it. I said, yeah. He said, is your company hiring? I said, you want to do what I do? You have all these trucks. And long story short, he said he wanted to do it. Then he comes in, but then he tells a friend of his. I didn't know him now. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. He tells Sean Hall. Sean Hall comes in. Sean Hall tells your husband.
Right.
Your husband tells you.
He forces me, thank God for that. But yes.
So, but I never really wanted to manage, but I did love Mr. Knox and I wanted him to be successful. He's a great friend of mine. He's a brother in Christ of mine. He's my former Bible study partner, and iron sharpens iron, man. He's one of my favorite cats, man. He really is. And I knew I want to help him become successful. And then one thing led to another. And I remember taking Sean Hall in the field one time. It was only like a $15 or $16 sale. We went in the house, where the gentleman came right back out of the house 30 minutes later. He said, what else we got to do? I said, that's it. He said, that's it? He said, oh, man, I'm not. He said, he said, it's on. So Mr. Hall, he was writing like crazy.
Yes.
He's seen one sale. I made a $16 sale to a gentleman in Wilkinsburg, and Sean seen that. He said, that's it. It's a wrap. Now, I let Sean Hall tell his own story, but that man's first number is a 3. That guy is kicking butt and taking names. Congrats, Sean. Thank you, God. But
he is definitely serious.
Transitioning was actually rather easy for me because I never stopped working. I continue to work. So a lot of people who were interested in the business, I would take out in the field often. So, because I was always in the field 6, most times 7 days a week. I worked every day for years, except for the last day of the month. That's how I was able to build it. But there was nothing else going on in my life. I don't want to watch TV. I don't play video games, and everything is all caught up. Why not work? I like it. I like meeting people. I love meeting seniors. I love getting checks. I love getting hugs. I love shaking hands. I like praying with people. This is a great opportunity. I love it. It's perfect for me.
Right. Man, well, look, And I know because I remember as we were growing, because I was like one of the first ones in there. And then the side of you came out finally of, we need a training platform. And so you were like, okay, we need some order in here. And I'm like, okay, well, I love to do training stuff and PowerPoints and presentations and all that stuff. And that I believe is when we kind of switched over, where we were able to really blend in our personalities and say, okay, I needed more structure. When I first came in, there was none. Right. And so it was like, yeah, no, I'm not interested in this. Like I needed to have that, but I didn't, but I thought I did. Right. And so I think when that training came in, it was like, okay, Chris, you do those 2 days, I'm gonna do these 2 days, and then we're gonna come back together. And I think our team probably was stronger, and of course in the beginning parts than ever when we started to do that training and really like tag team and agents, because then they were like, okay, I need to have that organization, I need to know my presentation, I need to have a little bit of fun, but I need that structure. And it was like boom, it just exploded from there. Because I don't ever tell anybody's income, but I think you rich over there. Because I'm doing pretty good and I'm continuing to grow. And it's a beautiful opportunity. And it's not even, it's nothing more than helping people. It is nothing more than giving. What's more than that? It is giving yourself, loving on people, blessing them, and in turn you're being blessed. But I'm going to tap in as we're in closing, the shirt, the mindset. One of the most important things, thinking about what you think about, the mind, clarity, go after what you want. Don't settle for what wants you. Like, yo, that shirt is so fitting in so many different ways. Talk to me about this shirt, and then we are going to wrap it up with my last bonus question of the day.
Mindset. In this particular line of work, I'm gonna back up. In life, in life, I realized through being here at Lincoln has and working with people such as yourself, your husband, Sean, Craig, Myra, Troy, Brian, Terrell, and countless others who we've all dumped into one another. I What's the greatest difference isn't the fact that we make a few more dollars. I love the way I think now. I love the way I think now.
Mm-hmm.
The people who were around, all these great minds think alike. And mindset. Everything begins and ends in the mind. Everything begins and ends in the mind. There's an acronym that I like to use when I'm doing a lot of our team conference calls. It's TFAR. T is in Tom, F is in Frank, A is in Apple, R is in Randy. T stands for thoughts. Everything begins in our thoughts. When we have a great thought, positive, a thought, positive or negative, a positive thought makes us feel positive. When we feel positive, it makes us want to act. When we feel good, it makes us want to produce the action. I think positive, I I feel positive, I act positive, my results are positive. Think, feelings, thinking, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. However, I realize that when I have a bad or negative or a thought that's working against me, nothing negative in the beginning can come up with a positive ending. So the negative thought, I don't, I feel bad because I'm thinking bad. If I'm thinking bad, I feel bad. If I feel bad, I don't want to get up off the sofa to produce the labor, pardon me, of act. And if I do no action, I do not get any results. So the most important thing is protecting your mindset and having positive thoughts as often as possible, and make sure you maintain a circle of good people, of great people who are very positive as well. Mindset.
I love it. Wow. So our last question, our bonus question. What are you looking forward to? I know you have hit millions of milestones within your last 11 years, but what are you looking forward to in 2021, still dealing with a pandemic?
Obviously the natural response by most people are going to be like that the vaccinations and COVID loosens its grip on the world and we can return to some sense of normalcy, if you will. But I'm not going to wish away my next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or next year or years of my life. Right now, what's happening, this is the new norm. And you understand this is the new norm, at least right now, there there could be a lot of positive, you can do a lot of positives with the fact that we can't venture out into the world like we used to do. There's a lot of things that a lot of us might have put on the back burner for many months, years, in some cases even decades. That now, because we can't go out there in the world and do the things we used to do and be around a lot of people like we used to be around, now's an opportunity to get your degree that you never got, to work out like you never worked out, to produce a diet in your life you never produced, to set new goals, to set new family goals, to do some things you never had time to do, because right now you have all the time to do whatever you always wanted to do. So what I'm looking forward to the most this year is continuing to not want to get back to rebuilding, to continue to build our agency, work with the people that we already have within the group to help them achieve their goals, so that those who might have kind of become complacent, we can help get them to where they want to be. And continue to work on a relationship within the organization, and even more so, this opportunity, the pandemic has gave a lot of us some time to think, to reflect, and in that reflection, in the reflecting time, it's given me an opportunity to really count the blessings that God has given, because we're not racing at a breakneck pace any longer. But the short answer is continue to take care of my health, my family, my kids, my grandkids, to continue to build the agency, and to just do what we can to uplift other human beings. A lot of times the world is trying itself, trying like heck to make it just like everybody else. And just to promise myself to be someone who always tries to sprinkle some positive energy and a smile to a complete stranger, to change the world one smile at a time, one conversation at a time, to say something to someone that might just make their day, just to keep it simple and to keep God in your life, keep God first, family right there second, and to work real hard third, and to continue to
Amen.
build. Yeah.
Amen. I appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate your time, Ty, for sure. Maybe one day, you guys, I'll put you in on the how we came to this interview. It was a little funny, but I'm going to end. I appreciate you guys and your time, your support, and watching. If this is one of your first videos, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with everyone, because there's so many nuggets within this interview that will help someone else in life. All right. And make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified whenever I upload the videos weekly. And as I end this series of that playing the hands that you were dealt, behind every success is effort. Behind every effort is passion. And behind every passion is someone with the courage to try. All of the information will be in the description down below. Make sure to check us out. We are hiring in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Virginia, and Delaware. Always check the description box below. Peace.